Hey everybody, Matt here with Grace Youth. I just knocked Lily over and stole her bike. We're riding bikes on our Zoom calls, Lily. Hey, thanks for giving us the chance to share this obsession we have with Jesus. Okay, you caught me. I didn't actually crash my bike, although I did fall. I just did it on purpose. But on that sidewalk out there where I fell, there is a huge gap, and there absolutely should be a sidewalk closed sign, because without that sign, that gap will lead to somebody's destruction. And I came across this passage from the Bible that talks about just that. In a letter to Timothy, who was serving a church in first century Greece, the Apostle Paul said this. He said, "Here is a saying that is trustworthy and deserves full acceptance. Christ Jesus came into the world to save sinners, of whom I am the worst." Now, before we dig into this saying too much, I do want to remind you of something that's very important to remember when we're reading the Bible, that although the Bible was absolutely written for us, it was not written to us. This letter was written to a man who was living in first century Greece. And that's important because when I hear a saying that talks about how Jesus came to save sinners, with my 21st century American ears, I hear the word sinners and I automatically think bad person. Jesus came to save bad people, naughty people, sinners. There's tons of shame involved. And when I think of that, when I hear that, I kind of go, ugh. And I sense this separation happening between me and this whole Jesus thing. But when we remember that this letter was written to a certain group of people at a certain time, we can think about what it is they were actually hearing and what the words actually were. So when Paul wrote, Christ Jesus came to save sinners, those first century Greeks, they didn't hear the word sinners because that wasn't the word that was written. The word that was written was the word hamartolos. And when they heard the word hamartolos, what came to their mind were characters like Oedipus, Antigone, Achilles, Midas. Amazing characters from their Greek literature. Characters who are oftentimes portrayed as incredibly powerful, incredibly brilliant, incredibly creative and influential, talented. But characters who invariably had, amongst all of their talent and all of their gifts, some kind of blind spot that got them into trouble, or weaknesses that caused destruction and pain in their lives. And it's actually with that in mind that made me think there's something I really want to tell you, but I'm gonna sit down to say it. You know, you are powerful, you are beautiful, you are talented and brilliant and passionate. But can I ask you a question? Do you have blind spots that cause you trouble? Do you have weaknesses that lead you to places that aren't good for yourself or for others? So there are two more things I want to show you about this saying that the Apostle Paul used to use. First, he said, Jesus came into the world. In other words, Jesus pursued humanity. Jesus took the risk of initiation. You know this risk. It's the risk that says, I'm putting myself out there, I'm making my intentions known, I love you, I want you. And it's risky because you're giving all the power to the person you're pursuing. The power to accept you or reject you. The power to reciprocate or not. And that's scary. But it's really important to remember that this is who Jesus is. Jesus initiated with humanity. Jesus pursued humanity. Jesus said, I love you. I want you. I'm coming for you. And finally, what Jesus came to do. The ancient saying says that he came to save. The Greek word is sodezo, and it means to rescue from danger or destruction, like a sidewalk closed sign, or even more, a bridge out sign. Jesus came as a bridge out sign for humanity, alerting us to the fact that the way we're headed, it leads to destruction. That while we're powerful and brilliant and talented and beautiful, our blind spots are leading us to a place of pain. So Jesus is like this big bridge out sign saying, hey, you need to turn around. You keep on in that direction and it doesn't end well. The societies you're building, the nations you're forming, the hierarchies and power structures you're putting in place, the divisions that are raging, the attachments you're allowing, it's not the way. Bridge out. And Jesus calls folks to follow him in a different direction. He led them away from self-preservation and towards self-sacrifice. He led them away from self-sufficiency and toward God's sufficiency. He led them away from hierarchies and pecking orders toward community. Christ Jesus came into the world in hot pursuit of a humanity that bore his image, reflected his glory, and needed desperately something or someone to draw attention to the bridge that was out. He came for me. He came for you.